Hello and welcome to Mewoosh Guitar School. Welcome to part 3 of music theory, and the major super exciting cliffhanger from the end of the last episode was, what scale do you get if you start shifting around the mask that covers up the non-major scale notes? So as you start to rotate it, you start introducing the sharps and flats, but you can't mix sharps and flats. So how do you decide which is which? Check out this cool app that I got on my phone that does a really good job of showing how this mask works, just like in the last video, but this time it's bent around into a circle so that once you circle around from one starting note to the octave, it just puts you right back on the first starting note again. Alright, so here's that app I wanted to show you. This is something that's really cool. You notice how it's got the same sort of mask pattern where it's covering some notes and showing others. So if you start with the C, see where the little black arrow is, it makes a tone jump to D, a tone jump to E, semitone to F, tone to G, tone to A, tone to B, semitone to the next C. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That's a major scale. Now, if I shift this, it switches up to the next one. So if you can see that, it hasn't yet decided whether or not it's going to be C sharp or D flat. Well, it can't be C sharp because you can't have a C and a C sharp in the same scale because of the musical staff. So when I let go of this ring, the sharps and flats are in fact all going to resolve to flats, and it becomes the D flat major scale. So now we're going to talk about modes. What are modes? Well, there's a thing called pitch axis theory, which basically says starting with the major scale shape and changing the starting point to the nth member of the of that set. If you start calling that the tonic note, then you're in mode N. You see what I did there? So if you start on the 6th note of a pattern, then you're in the 6th mode. Now, I say tonic. A chord has a root note. That's a foundational note that gives the chord its characteristics. A scale, you'll hear people say that a root note in a scale, but that's not really correct. The proper term is tonic. So a scale has a tonic note, which is the foundation. It's the start and finish note of a given scale. So given a diatonic scale where the intervals are tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, that's the major scale, you have the Ionian mode. That's just what they call it. Earlier, we moved the interval pattern sideways and showed what scale you would get if you started on a different note in the chromatic scale using the same tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone pattern. So you're going to get the next major scale, and in the language of modes, it's the Ionian mode for that next note. How about instead we change not the notes, but the interval pattern itself? So looking at this, we've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G, and on it goes. Took out all the sharps and flats, and I've put in tones and semitones to show where the sharps and flats were. That just shows where the intervals are. And they're fixed to those notes because the sharps and flats are very specific. There are no sharps or flats between B and C, and there's no sharps or flats between E and F. That's just the way it works. Again, this is a convention that they set a long time ago, hundreds of years ago, so that it worked with the way people were composing music at the time. Now, if we change which point in the interval pattern we're starting with, but leave the notes the way they are, then you don't get any sharps or flats mixed into it, so we're still using the same notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and so forth. Starting at C, ending at C, it's the Ionian mode. It's the major scale. But what if we don't start on C? So if we don't use C as the tonic note, let's shift it up. If you change where in the interval pattern you're starting, then you get a different mode. So the modes are going to have all the same notes. It just depends on which one you're starting with. So the modes are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. The sixth one is Aeolian, and the seventh one is Locrian. So the Ionian is the major scale. You already know that one. The Dorian scale is sort of a minor-ish sounding scale. Phrygian, the third one, is Eastern Spanishy, very exotic sounding scale. Lydian is a very powerful kind of major scale. It's got a flattened fifth in it. Mixolydian, very heroic sounding major scale. That one's got a flattened seventh. The Aeolian is the natural minor scale. So this is one you're going to be very familiar with as well. The major scale, the minor scale. They're just two different modes. And then, of course, I mentioned Locrian. This one is a horrid sounding diminished 7 flat 5 kind of thing. It's just ugly. It works. There's a style of music for it, but you're not going to hear it on pop radio. So let's talk about the minor scale, the Aeolian mode. So take the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then shift the starting point so that you're starting on the A, which is the sixth position, instead of the C. And then you just circle around to the front. In this case, you get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then A again, right? So then you're going to get tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, right? That's the A minor scale, the Aeolian mode. So do you see how they are still directly connected? C Ionian, A Aeolian. They're the same notes, but the tonic is the one that changed. Knowing that there are no flats between B and C and E and F, then the interval from A to B is still a full tone, B to C is a semitone, C to D is a full tone, and so forth. Tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. To demonstrate this, I'm going to switch and use my other guitar, and I'm going to show you a really cool way to demonstrate modes. It really highlights how, given the exact same notes, if you use a different tonic, a different starting and stopping point for the scale, it sounds extremely different. Same notes, totally different sound. Check this out. Now here's the scale. I can also use the open strings. They're all non-sharp flat notes. They're all natural notes. So I can use those as well. So I'm staying on that scale, just playing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But I'm going to play a different note underneath it. Now, first off, we're going to start with the major scale, the Ionian mode. So there's a C. So, very major sounding. Now, if I go to the sixth note, which is an A, and play the same notes on top of it, it has a minor sound to it. Do you hear the difference? So minor sounding. Notice I'll call it. Now, here's the kicker. Let's use the third note in the sequence. So that's going to be C, D, E. If I play this over E, we're in the third mode, or Phrygian. Check this out. Cool, eh? So, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming out. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.